ASMR edition.
Hello. I'm just gonna...
That has been your ASMR for the evening. And today we're talking about
Everyone's just gonna go.
terrorism.
Hi, we're the Real Lady Codes and we're talking about some terrorism today. What's up?
It was a hate crime.
Hi. Okay, what do you got for us today, Schmaitlin?
Anders Behring Breivik.
Everyone is going to already have stopped watching the video. Like, I hope you know that. Like, I would click out of this video if I were watching it.
I would not.
I would.
I feel like this is the trash dump I was looking for.
Okay, sure. We're the trash dump you were looking for. Like, you found us.
This is like when memes die. Like, that's our channel. It's like where memes
This
go.
is the graveyard. This is the funeral rave graveyard.
My roommate's just sending me like weird lyrics, I think. She goes, "You're so postmodern. Go ahead and monologue, baby." That's Max Bemis.
Yeah. So we're talking about some terrorism today. You can't laugh in the background.
You're saying funny things. I am the audience and like a
Real studio.
We have to include all of this.
Our real studio audience today is Jason, so if you hear someone just ominously laughing in the background, it's him.
Yep.
We don't have a ghost that I know of. We might. Okay, so terrorism.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
When I looked up essays on Anders Behring Breivik, most of them had to do with his sentencing, which is very lenient. And I'll get to that soon. But let me just give you some figures. On July 22nd, 2011, he murdered 77 people.
Oh, pardon?
Mm-hmm.
77 people. Really?
Like in a day, yeah.
Jeez.
Within like a few hours.
That's fun.
So, in an essay I found about this, someone decides to do an ode to Norway, in which they said, notably, Norway is a small country, pretty homogeneous and egalitarian. When a disaster strikes, everyone knows someone affected. When the Scandinavian Star burned in 1990 and 158 of its passengers died, everyone knew someone who died or was affected. Norway responds with pride and deep empathy when a disaster or praise befalls one of its people. On May 17th, National Constitution Day, people gather together in a nonpartisan display of national pride and solidarity. As Carl Ove Knausgaard writes in his essay, Inside the Warped Mind of Anders Breivik, this says something about the country's egotism, but also about its harmlessness.
I think you're a professional monologuer. Like, I think you should I think that you should read books for, you know what I mean?
Audible?
Like Audible. If nothing else fails, I think that's what you could do. That's all.
I feel like I have a very stereotypical, this says something about the country's egotism, but also about its harmlessness.
Why'd you just have a little bit of an English accent?
Because you know that's what they all do.
Okay, sure.
They all, it always sounds like this. Like, notably, Norway is a small country. It is homogeneous and egalitarian. When a disaster strikes, everyone knows someone affected.
Honestly,
What accent is this?
It's just like a very precise accent.
it's just very specific.
Yeah.
Also, I think that the audition for getting the book reading Audible parts is you have to pronounce egalitarian.
Egalitarian.
Yeah, because I can't do it, so I lose the interview.
Can you do it, Jason?
Egalitarian.
Well, you'd
Oh.
win. So I guess I can't be an Audible reader.
Bonus points for homogeneous.
Homogeneous.
Or,
heard that.
alternatively, homogeneous.
Homogeneous.
Yeah.
It could be either.
Or
It's a both.
alternatively, zebra.
Anyway, so a bombing occurred outside.
Okay.
Segues. Okay.
Segues. Anyway, so this bombing happened?
So the terrorist attack, the thing that they're talking about with Anders Breivik is that a bombing occurred outside Regjeringskvartalet, the heart of, I don't know how to pronounce that, the heart of Norway's government. It was July 22nd, 2011, as I said. A homemade car bomb in a Volkswagen Crafter was lit by 32-year-old Anders Behring Breivik after he stepped out of his mother's flat in Oslo's West End in a police uniform. He lit the car bomb's fuse and left the scene. It was a 950-kilogram homemade car bomb. It devastated the location of the Prime Minister's office. Security officers believe CCTV cameras revealed the first hint of the identity of the killer, a man without a head, which means like that he probably had like a hoodie on. That's
Or,
like
like,
a man without a head.
The headless horseman?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
Yeah, they were like, it was a dude with a freaking pumpkin on his head.
On a horse for some reason.
Damn, Paul Revere. Okay.
In Norway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you know it's wrong.
Norway.
They're like, wait, why is...
Norway, Paul Revere's there.
They're like, wait, why is Paul Revere there?
Good fun.
It's pretty good. Snaps for Kaylin.
No way. So they assumed he was likely a member of Al Qaeda because they were like, okay, like suicide bomber or something like that. They were like, terrorism is clearly only committed by
that's
people
not
of Middle
racist
Eastern
at all,
descent.
right?
No, that's all terrorism is.
Oh, absolutely true.
If it's committed by a white person, it's just it's a fun day. So after this, like during even that day, Oslo streets suddenly were very terrifying for Muslims. The attack killed 8 people, and a lot of Muslims felt very like terrified that they would like be the recipient of violence and stuff like that.
That's
like,
fair.
Like the same thing that happened after 9/11, where it's like
happening.
ordinary people were suddenly like, wow,
I'm scared.
they're gonna hate me for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah.
I mean, that's still happening, but that's another subject we could talk about. Yeah. It's fine.
So Peter Svard, who actually went to school with Anders Breivik, was a journalist, and he noted that there was huge amounts of tension in the air. And he said, when the police look scared, that's not a good sign, and the police looked scared. But Breivik was not done. 8 people was not enough.
Uh-oh.
So Breivik heads to Utøya, where the AUF, or the Workers' Youth League, had its annual summer camp. This is a small island 24 miles from the capital of Norway. There, Breivik shot and killed 69 more people in a massacre that lasted for more than an hour, right until the police arrived, when he immediately surrendered. Before this attack, students of the AUF prepared for a summer of politics and education. It's like basically a summer camp for leaders of the country. If you want to be a leader, you go to this. So like members of the AUF had like done really big things, led Norway, like Jens Stoltenberg, who was the former prime minister of Norway from 2000 to 2001 and 2005 to 2013, had been involved in the summer camp since 1974.
Oh my God.
The summer of 2011 was Eskil Pedersen's first year as leader of the organization, which is the year that this happened. He was working hard to make sure that this year the summer camp would be the best ever. At one point, the Minister of Foreign Affairs came alone, no secretary, nothing else. The sun was shining. It was 27 degrees Celsius, a really nice day. And then
I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, because I only speak Fahrenheit.
It's like 70 or 80. So like 27 would be a nice, like warm summer day. Yeah. Okay. But not too super hot, because like 30s is like 100, I think. So the next day, the weather was horrible, rainy and wet, but like everyone was like, the atmosphere was electric, and according to everyone at the camp, life couldn't be better.
Okay, cool. It's just having a good time.
Yeah. So approximately 1.5 hours after the Oslo explosion, where he like bombed the capital with that like car, Breivik, dressed in a police uniform and presenting himself as Martin Nilsson from the Oslo Police Department, boarded the ferry MS Storbjørn at Utøya in Tyrifjorden.
Almost definitely those are all wrong, but it's fine.
Watch them all be right.
I trust you, actually.
What if they were all right?
I trust you a lot more than I trust myself.
So they were like, he boarded a ferry at a lake at about some 32 kilometers northwest of Oslo to the island of Utøya, the location of the Norwegian Labour Party's AUF camp. The camp is organized there every summer and is attended by approximately 600 teenagers.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of teenagers. Okay.
So when Breivik arrived on the island, he presented himself as a police officer who had come over for a routine check following the bombing in Oslo. He was like, is everything safe?
I hate that.
So he was met by Monica Bose, the camp leader and island hostess. Bose probably became suspicious and contacted Trond Berntsen, the security officer on the island, before Breivik killed them both.
I hate that.
He then signaled and asked people to gather around him before pulling weapons and ammunition from a bag and firing indiscriminately, killing and wounding numerous people. He first shot people on the island and later started shooting at people who were trying to escape by swimming across the lake. These are like young adults and teenagers, by the way. Survivors on the island described a scene of terror. Survivor Dana Bartsingi, then 21, described how several victims wounded by Breivik pretended to be dead, but he came back and shot them again.
I hate that.
He spared an 11-year-old boy who had lost his father, Trond Berntsen, during the shooting and stood up against him and said he was too young to die, as well as a 22-year-old man who begged for his life. So he was like, you guys are good, and then killed all their friends and family. So some witnesses hid in undergrowth and lavatories, communicating by text message to avoid revealing their positions. The mass shooting lasted for around an hour and a half, ending when a police special task force arrived and Breivik surrendered despite having ammunition left at 18:35. The shooter used hollow point or frangible bullets, which increased tissue damage. So it's like he's shooting to kill.
Yeah.
Breivik repeatedly shouted, "You are going to die today, Marxists."
Oh my god.
So, spoiler alert, he's real white.
Yeah.
And he's a neo-Nazi.
Oh no.
Oseas' husband and one of her daughters, who were also present, survived. The youngest victim, New Zealand-born Sheridan Svabak-Bon of Drammen, was 14 years old. 16-year-old Andreen Vakin Espeland of Sarpsborg was the last victim, nearly 1 hour after the shooting began. Residents in a flotilla of motorboats and fishing dinghies sailed out to rescue the survivors, who were pulled out shivering and bleeding from the water and picked up from hiding places in the bushes and behind rocks around the island's shoreline. Some survived by pretending to be dead. Several campers, especially those who knew the island well, swam to the island's rocky west side and hid in the caves, which are only accessible from the water. Others were able to hide away on the secluded killerlookss, which is called just Love Path. I didn't pronounce that. I just really blew that one, but it's Love Path. And 47 of the campers sought refuge in Skolestoa, the schoolhouse, together with personnel from the Norwegian People's Aid. Although Breivik fired 2 bullets through the door, he did not get through the locked door, and the people inside this building all survived. The teenagers said that they had decided it was too difficult to stop the gunmen. They discovered a cave-like opening in a rock where they hid 23 children from Breivik. Desamayev, who kept guard outside, also dragged 3 youngsters from the lake who were close to drowning. Former Prime Minister Gro Harlem Brundtland, whom Breivik said he hated, and in a pun on the more or less ironic epithet Lensmorderen, Mother of the Nation, referred to his ranks as Lensmorderen, Murder of the Nation. He had been to the island earlier to give a speech to the camp. After the attack, Breivik stated that he originally wanted to target her specifically, but because of delays related to the renovation of Oslo's central rail station, he arrived after she had already left. So the first shot was fired at 17:22. The emergency medical services were informed about the shooting 2 minutes later, so like real rapid. And 1 minute after that, the police in Oslo were informed. They immediately tried to reach Utøya as quickly as possible, but did not have a helicopter that could take them straight to the island. By 17:30, the anti-terror police in Oslo, the emergency response unit, were on their way to Utøya by automobile.
So that's an 8 minute.
That's by the time they leave and they have to drive because they don't have a helicopter. So one of the first to arrive on the scene was Marcel Clough, a German resident of Ski, staying at Utvika, camping on the mainland. Recognizing gunshots, he piloted his boat to the island and began throwing life jackets to young people in the water, rescuing as many as he could in 4 or 5 trips, after which the police asked him to stop. Which I'm like...
That, I mean... for his own safety, I suppose, but
it's like you're saving people, and he wants to do this.
Yeah.
Anyway, he saved up to 30 people.
Oh, wow.
Another 40 were saved by Hege Dalen and Toril Hansen, a married couple on vacation in the area. Dalen was helping from land while Hansen and a neighbor camper made several trips to rescue people in the water. Several dozen more were rescued by Kasper Elog, who made 3 trips to the island. Elog, a local resident, received a telephone call that something terrible was happening at Utøya and requesting help. He initially thought the call was a prank, like, as you would in Norway, which has, like, no terrorist violence at all. But he acted anyway, because he was like, I guess maybe if it's not...
Yeah.
So altogether, some 150 who swam away from the island were pulled out of the lake by campers on the opposite shore and survived. The anti-terror police reached the meeting point at 18:09, but had to wait a few minutes for a boat to take them across to Utøya. So they got to the docks and still had to wait.
Oh my god.
They reached Utøya at 18:25. They got the anti-terror call at 17:22.
So it's almost an hour. Not to their own fault, but just because.
I'm sorry, 17:24 is when they got it. And it's basically a full hour.
Not to their own fault, but, like, that's,
Yeah, it sucks. And that's scary. Like, that's part of it. Is like, you get that call, but it's an hour.
Yeah.
So when confronted by the heavily armed police on the island, the gunman initially hesitated for a few seconds. When an officer yelled, "Surrender or be shot," he laid down his weapons. Anders Breivik called the 112 emergency phone number at least twice to surrender at 1801 and 1826 and continued killing people in between.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So it is one of those things where it's like, if you had just gotten there sooner. And it's like no
Yeah.
one's fault, but it's like, if you had just gotten there sooner.
Yeah.
The police said Breivik hung up both times, and they tried to call him back, but did not succeed.
My god.
So when the police arrived at the scene, they were met by survivors begging the officers to throw away their weapons as they were afraid that the men in uniforms would again open fire on them, because he was in a police uniform when he arrived on the, like, land.
Right.
So they're like, we can't trust even the police.
Yeah.
So during the attack, 69 people were killed, and of the 517 survivors, 66 were wounded.
Oh my god.
It's bad.
Oh my god.
The Norwegian police did not have helicopters suitable for transporting groups, as I said. So when the local police arrived at Utakaya less than 30 minutes after the first shot was fired, they could not find a suitable boat. So they had to wait so much time. So some have criticized the police for not using a helicopter, for not immediately getting into small boats, and for endangering the couple who eventually drove the civilian boat to get them to land. So once they arrived in Utoya, the police arrested, in addition to Breivik, Anzor Djorkaev, an innocent 17-year-old survivor who represented the Akershus branch of AUF. The youth was reportedly stripped naked and locked up in a jail cell located only meters away from the cell housing the self-confessed killer. The victim, who as a child had witnessed mass murders in Chechnya, was suspected of being an accomplice because his haircut was different from that shown on his identity document.
Oh, what the heck?
And because he did not react to the carnage with the same tears and hysteria as most of the other survivors.
So he has a different coping mechanism.
Yeah.
It's fine.
He was kept in custody for 17 hours because his hair was different and like...
Oh my god.
Anyway, so his lawyer, Harald Stavel, criticized the police for failing to contact the youth's family, who's 17, and who feared he was like gonna... And like his family is afraid he's dead.
Yeah.
Because they're like, we haven't heard.
Yeah.
And they also like interrogated
Oh
the
my
victim
God.
without a lawyer present.
For like almost an entire day thinking that your son's
17
dead.
hours.
Thinking that your son
You're
got
like, my
killed.
son is on that camp. And like, I've not heard from
Oh my
him.
god, that's actually really terrifying.
And the police like have him in custody and aren't telling you, and they interrogate him without a lawyer
That's
present.
definitely illegal.
Well, I don't know.
Well,
in
it would be
Norway.
in America. It would be
I don't
illegal,
know in Norway.
but
But I'm assuming if the lawyer is criticizing it, it's probably
it's at
not
least
okay.
unethical.
It's not okay.
Yeah.
So this was the worst mass murder by a terrorist acting alone in the history of the world at the time.
Wow.
So this is like worse than 9/11, like a single mass like murder, even though
Right.
like 9/11 technically
on their
has,
own
yeah.
scales, yeah.
It's like it has to do with like a single, like it's a terrorist acting alone.
Right.
So it's like a single person.
A terrorist with a gun.
So
acting
it would
along.
be like more similar to like McVeigh, who did Oklahoma. A blanket of death, as a lot of civilians put it, had been put over Norway, over the entire island. Norway was shocked because Breivik wasn't the stereotypical Muslim extremist that we had been all taught to fear.
Racism. It's fine.
Breivik was white, well-educated, and just so happened to be a right-wing extremist terrorist.
Wait, so you're telling me that he's not a Middle Eastern Muslim?
yeah, no.
Wait, but I thought all terrorists were Middle Eastern Muslims.
No, he's not.
Racism
I
is
say it
alive
again.
and well.
He's just doing a funny prank. He's white. It's just a Jake Paul prank.
It's not terrorism.
It's just funny. So he had unleashed a declaration of war against his own people to stop the threat of Muslim invasion. More specifically, before he detonated his car bomb, Anders emailed a 1,500-page manifesto to 1,000 recipients in which he said that we were all at war with Muslims and multiculturalism, and that the slaughter of the campers was a wake-up call.
Multiculturalism?
Multiculturalism
Oh,
is
my
bad.
God.
We should not have multicultures. It's one culture.
Oh, I hate that.
He also uploaded to YouTube a 12-minute video that revealed with propagandistic simplicity what was about to happen to Europe if they did not wake up. A Muslim invasion. Think of it. The world filled with brown people.
So the thing is that
How scary, all the brown people.
Muslims are just trying to exist.
And I'm generalizing. Muslims are of all colors, all
No, you're
different
right.
types. What does this mean, a Muslim invasion? Like, how would you even know They look the same as
like-
everyone
it's like,
else.
The Muslims are coming instead of the British are coming.
You won't know. They're your neighbor Linda.
Like they're just hanging out. Like
They're just trying to do Ramadan in peace, and you're being a dick.
Yeah.
Like, just let them.
they're literally just trying to exist.
They're like, I just want to
Just
worship.
live their life.
I just want to worship God, and if like you're a Christian or a Jew, it's like literally the same God. So like, chill out. Like, it's gonna be fine.
They're like, I'm just living my life, and you're
Stop.
accusing me of things that I don't do, but it's fine. It's not fine.
So before this, the most serious political assault in the country had been the Hoteland murders in 1981, I think, but I wrote 19,801, which is certifiably incorrect.
So, assumedly,
I think
1980.
1981?
TBD.
Okay, two members of a small neo-Nazi underground movement, Norske Germanske Army, were killed by members of their organization. This was unprecedented violence. Norway doesn't have a lot of that kind of stuff. So who is this terrorist? Well,
I believe you're going to tell us.
he was a neo-Nazi. That's it. Okay, that's all you need to know. So Breivik grew up in an expensive area in Oslo. He was a baby when his parents got divorced, and his diplomat father essentially left his life early on. His mother was a depressive, self-destructive woman who thought of sending her boy and his sister to an orphanage. They could, as she put it, go to the devil, she put to a child's welfare officer. He, of course, has a traumatic past.
Yeah.
They all do. Like, no one normal does this stuff. So while this was not Breivik's fate, he, like, stayed with his mother. He did become a bully to his sister and tormented pet animals, as you do when you're a psychopath.
Yeah. The triad.
1, 2, 3. So he tried to join groups and make friends, but this always ended poorly and with personal humiliation.
I mean, same, but I truck on.
I don't know why that got me. You're like, who doesn't? So he had like lots of delusions of grandeur to make up for like the fact that he couldn't make friends. So he latched onto a group of graffiti artists and pretended to be the top tagger of Oslo, but that was a lie, and they like rejected him, and they were like, bye.
That reminds me of, have you seen I, Tonya?
Yeah.
Okay, you know how the one guy who kind of like started it all, you know, who actually like talked to those people to knock their knees out, when he was like, I am definitely a personal investigator and bodyguard for many famous people overseas.
That dude,
and they're like, you're not, you're not. And he's like, oh, but I am.
But I'm a ninja. Ninja.
Why is that the meme all of a sudden?
Ninja.
None of these are the right movements either. Ninja glare snob.
Ninja. Okay.
Throwback.
So, ironically, despite the fact that he hates Muslims, his one friend was a boy named Ahmed, a Muslim son of Pakistani immigrants.
I'm not surprised by that at all, actually, because that's kind of a motif, I feel.
So, Ahmed eventually
was
moved away, but they really didn't have issues.
I was gonna like maybe guess that one of his parents were Muslim or something like that, because that's kind of how it goes sometimes.
No, they're just absent.
Yeah,
But
no,
yeah,
I feel
one of
that.
his friends was
Yeah.
super Muslim. Or just like a normal Muslim.
Yeah, just
Just a person.
a Muslim.
I don't know if he was super, I don't really know him. But okay. So after finishing high school, Breivik tried various schemes to make money, such as selling advertising space by telephone. He thought of joining the Freemasons once, bad sign, but eventually got bored after attending a lodge meeting, and he never really attended. He then entered into politics through the Progress Party, a populist outfit whose main agenda was to turn public opinion against immigrants and to denounce the dangers of Islam. So he wanted to be the candidate for city councilor. Breivik turned to militarizing himself, gaining expertise in weapons. Due to his strange predilections, he was deemed too weird even for the Progress Party and was never asked to run for office because he was like, I got a machete. And they're like, no.
He was just deemed too weird.
He's like, I have a machete, an AR-15, and they're like, please stop.
They're like actually,
hard
pass.
No.
Skibbity ba ba ba. Skibbity ba 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 bye.
So then he was having trouble in his romantic life, so he summoned a mail order bride from Belarus, but nothing came of it. He paid for a woman to come and marry him, and it didn't work out. So some people who knew Breivik became convinced he was secretly gay due to his love of makeup and his love of dressing up. However, he was like, nah, fam, and bragged he loved visiting brothels because, yeah, man, I love to just have sex with people.
With women. With vaginas.
With women who are literally paid to have sex with me.
Because manly men.
Manly men can't get it on their own.
Because no feelings. Just sex. And machetes.
Just sex. So he played a lot of World of Warcraft.
Same.
He called himself, this is his name in World of Warcraft, Anders Nordic.
I love it.
Because we have to stay Aryan here. Mm. His peers, even in World of Warcraft, refused to acknowledge him as a serious or worthy player.
Oh my god.
So even in the geek community, they were like, no.
He's just like really trying to like be a big deal. Where it's like, it's okay not to be a big deal. It's okay to just be kind of
You're just
average.
A weirdo, yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. Okay.
It's okay to not be the best graffiti tagger. You can settle for second best and it's fine.
You can just settle for not being good at anything.
You can just
That's
settle
what I have done. I'm thoroughly mediocre.
You could just settle for being like, they're like cheerleader. That's what I do too. I'm just
Same.
I have no talent.
But I can
like,
tell
I'm
you
here for you.
Good job.
I'm here.
Good job.
Good one. Like I can build people up. That's what I can do.
Wow, that's a talent.
That's actually
You are good at that.
I'm good at that. I'm like,
but also you have actual skills.
Which is counting inventory at Starbucks.
Managerial talent.
Which is counting inventory
You're
at
also
Starbucks.
artistic and like good at decorating.
I'm gonna cry occasionally. I think it's inspired by Mitsuha though.
No, like you're actually really good at aesthetic things.
Thank you. I try really hard.
And social media is like a strength for you.
Thank you. Wow. Oh my god, I need to keep Caitlin around to just like build me up. Your hair is really nice and your makeup always looks really pretty. So do your eyebrows. I'm just because I'm looking at your face currently. Thanks. You have a nice vocabulary.
Thank you.
I was just bragging about how good I am at building people up and I'm like, good vocabulary, Kate.
Okay. Around 2006, he sunk into his own delusions privately. He became convinced that Islam was the ultimate enemy. He was inspired by websites like Robert Spencer's Jihad Watch, which, by the way, jihad just literally means struggle, in case you were curious, or the neo-Nazi Stormfront. He liked Bruce Bauer, Geert Wilders, and a Norwegian blogger named Fjordman. He transformed himself into an online person of Andrew Berwick. So that's why he called himself online and like message boards. As Berwick, he wrote a long-ass manifesto entitled 2083, A European Declaration of Independence. Muslims were actually not even the main targets of Berwick's war. The main enemies of Berwick's Knights Templar, which he called himself, and he was the justitious knight commander of this Knights Templar. So, like, the main enemies were cultural Marxism, multiculturalism, and the cultural elites who worked with Islam to Islamicize the West.
I hate that people are against multiculturalism. Like, I don't know why that's very gross to me. Yeah. Like, all of it is, but particularly that, I'm like...
We're just a salad, guys.
I know.
We're all in here.
I'm like, there is no way. There's just no way we can be, like, a single culture. I don't get it.
Yeah,
anyways,
and
it's
that's
just
what's so
it's
beautiful
just very gross
about the U.S. and like other countries and like
in the world.
Yeah, the world
generally?
is beautiful just because like we're all here
and
we're all so different and it's so cool and we're also similar and it's so funny.
I would not want the same culture over the entire world.
No,
like
it'd be boring.
Like you wouldn't travel. You wouldn't do anything. Like like Japan would not have been fun because it would have just been all the same. You know what I mean? Okay, it's just gross and boring.
Anyways, I'm going to read you some of the manifesto.
Oh, right. Okay,
and I'm going to do it in the way I picture it being read.
Sure. Straightens up.
I don't hate Muslims at all. I acknowledge that there are magnificent Muslim individuals in Europe. In fact, I have had several Muslim friends over the years, some of which I still respect. This does not mean, however, that I will accept an Islamic presence in Europe. Muslim individuals who do not assimilate 100% within 2020 will be deported as soon as we manage to seize power.
I also just want to point out that the motif in people who are either homophobic or racist or any of those things, they go, I'm not racist, I have black friends, or I'm not
That's
homophobic,
literally what he
I have some gay friends. Do you know what
like,
I mean?
I know some good Muslims.
I know.
I'm also saying that wrong, and I know I am apologizing because I know I'm saying it very anglicized. I know how it's just slipping
Of
out.
what?
Muslim.
Oh, Muslim?
Muslim.
Am I saying it wrong then? It's because we're very
Muslim.
southern, so I'm like, Muslim.
Yeah, I always do that, and I'm like Muslim, and that's so wrong, and I don't know.
I'm sorry, southern accents.
I just know it's super shitty to get it wrong. I am trying my best.
Is
I'm
it?
just talking fast.
Okay.
Like
I have no excuse. I'm dumb, so.
I mean,
that's my
if you
excuse.
didn't know,
I didn't know.
then you didn't know.
I know
That's
now.
I just have some friends that are like, pronounce it right.
That's
it's
fair.
one of the biggest religions in the world.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, okay, part 2. Around the year 2000, I realized that the democratic struggle against the Islamization of Europe, European multiculturalism, was lost. It had gone too far.
European multiculturalism, like what? White people?
Multiplicities of white people.
Just like all kinds of different,
So
like,
different
not
white
even different shades of white people, but just like different kinds of white
Yeah,
people.
but different cultures.
Different accents of white people.
Types of white people.
Types of white
A
people.
beige versus an ivory.
I get you, but not even hardly beige because that could be getting too
Sand
dark.
versus ivory.
Yeah, light sand versus ivory versus porcelain.
versus alabaster.
Shade 001 versus
Alabaster.
shade 002.
Just all the
Also,
the first
tarts.
10 Kat Von D.
So basically Tarte's shade collection.
White!
Just white. And then maybe a couple tan.
Aryan!
Yeah. We only cater towards white people.
So it had gone too far, according to him. So 40 years of dialogue with the cultural Marxist / multiculturalists had ended up as a disaster. It would now only take 50 to 70 years before we, the Europeans, are in a minority.
This is still his manifesto.
Yeah, I've decided to give up the voice.
It's
As soon as I realized this, I decided to explore alternative forms of opposition. Protesting is saying that you disagree. Resistance is saying you will put a stop to this. I decided I wanted to join the resistance movement.
Okay.
And then his next line is, if you are unwilling or incapable of killing women due to the principles of chivalry, you should probably steer away completely from the armed resistance movements and should probably consider creating yet another right-wing blog instead.
He's just very off the bat being like, kill everyone.
I will kill women. I
Wow.
will kill men. I will kill everyone. Yeah. And then he goes, once you decide to strike, it is better to kill too many than not enough.
No.
Or you risk reducing the desired ideological impact of the strike. Explain what you have done in an announcement distributed prior to operation, which is what he did, and make certain that everyone understands that we, the free peoples of Europe, are going to strike again and again.
I hate this.
And then he goes, do not apologize. Make excuses or express regret for you are acting in self-defense or in a preemptive manner. Some innocent will die in our operations as they are simply at the wrong place at the wrong time.
That's...
Get used to the idea. The needs of the many will always surpass the needs of the few. Which
that.
literally does remind me of a Nazi quote, which is literally like, for the greater good.
I hate that. Yeah.
And it's like, but
It's not.
like, individuals do
You're
matter.
just the worst. It's fine.
And then the last quote I have for you is, if you for some reason survive the operation, you will be apprehended and arrested. This is the point where most heroic knights would call it a day. However, this is not the case for a Justice Shear knight. Your arrests will mark the initiation of the propaganda phase. So he wanted to get arrested.
I hate all that.
And in my notes I have, cool. I'm
You're
like,
like,
great.
nice.
Okay. So, as many have noted, what's of interest relating to Breivik is how much Breivik's profile, the social and sexual failures, the sense of isolation, the conversion, often through the internet, to a grand empowering cause matches that of jihadi killers. Actually, like, it looks a lot like ISIS. So, indeed, Breivik told his police interrogators that he was actually inspired by the fighting spirit of Al-Qaeda. But he is also like the murderers at Columbine High School in Colorado or the Boston bombers. The same lethal mixture of violent fantasy and feelings of worthlessness.
I'm very grossed out.
Yeah, you should be.
I'm very grossed out.
So here's the trial.
Okay.
And things don't get better.
I'm not excited.
Okay. The most striking aspect of the 10-week trial, which took place a year later, and at which we were all given our first glimpse of Breivik and his entire life and his every environment was documented and analyzed. So the first thing that we noticed was how normalized both the perpetrator and the crime had become. One of Breivik's victims called him a jerk in a newspaper. Numerous commentators...
Just a jerk?
He's just a jerk.
Just a not cool dude.
Numerous commentators described him as small, petty, pathetic, ignoring the fact that he murdered so many
You
people.
mean like gross, disgusting, like actually
Evil.
evil, like
just an embodiment of cruelty.
just very bad.
So
The worst.
some devoted themselves to finding the holes in his arguments. Others described his missteps and his misconceptions. And by doing so, you simplify the crime. You make it like, oh, he should have done this. And then it's like, well,
So are you saying he was right in doing this?
no, they're just like,
Like
oh, this
them.
is the problem. They're like, this is the hole in his logic. And it's like, let's not tackle him in logical fallacies here.
Also, the hole in his logic is he's an asshole, racist bullshit who is literally killing people because
Yeah.
why? Why? No, like I'm confused.
So, an initial court-ordered psychiatric review concluded that Breivik suffered from paranoid schizophrenia, but a second review diagnosed only dissocial personality disorder or antisocial personality disorder, psychopath, sociopath, and narcissistic traits. So, he wasn't schizophrenic, and the court ruled that he was not psychotic. Many like to connect this event to the 1995 Oklahoma city bombings committed by Mr. Timothy McVeigh, which I mentioned to you before, and we'll probably cover sometime. Where, in an anti-government protest, he parked a truck bomb outside a federal building and murdered 168 people. So actually more than this.
This is a little bit different though because it's one
McVeigh
guy.
also didn't do it by himself, yeah.
Yeah, it's like one guy shooting 69 plus people. Like,
So, indeed, Breivik took the Oklahoma City bombing as a model for the first part of his attack.
so gross.
However, almost everything else regarding Breivik and his crime points away from the political and ideological and toward the personal. He made himself a sort of military commander's uniform in which he photographed himself before the crime. He consistently referred to a larger organization of which he claimed to be a prominent member of, but which does not exist.
It doesn't exist, yeah.
In his manifesto, he interviews himself as if he were a hero. He interviews himself.
Big yeet.
And the impression this gives is of a person who has erected a make-believe reality in which his significance is undisputed. The way in which he carried out his crime and the way that his thoughts contextualized it resembles role-playing rather than political terrorism.
Okay.
A few months before Breivik carried out the assault, he visited his former stepmother and told her that soon he was going to do something that would make his father proud.
Oh, no.
His mother had left his father when he was 1, and it had been years since Breivik had spoken to him. Today, Breivik sits in a prison outside Oslo. He was given a 21-year term that can be extended indefinitely, which is Norway's maximum sentence, but it also could end at 21 years. This 21-year sentence is shocking to people that are like Americans, seeing as if you do the math, it's only 100 days per murder. But this is standard in more restorative justice nations like Norway. Following the intense media scrutiny after the attack and during the trial, there is now almost complete silence around Breivik. The last item concerning Breivik to surface in the news came earlier this year when he conveyed his intention of suing the government over his prison conditions. This followed a series of accusations about everything ranging from the fact that his game console hadn't been properly upgraded from PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3, to his having been issued...
Relatable.
Yeah.
Can relate.
Then he also complained about not getting an ergonomically incorrect rubber pen, and that because of this, he had hand cramps.
Scandinavian prisons are notoriously fancy.
Yeah.
Like, notoriously.
He has a PlayStation.
Yeah.
So
He's in a nice prison.
He's
Like-
probably the most notorious criminal in Norway, and he has a PlayStation 2.
American
But
prisons.
not a PlayStation 3.
I mean, he's still a criminal.
American
We have limits.
jails probably just have like a communal TV.
They do.
That's literally it.
And it's like, I don't know, when I hear this, I'm just like, I get it, but I also just, like, you can't
I
fix
feel like-
someone like this.
I
Like,
feel
you don't
like-
rehabilitate this level of gone.
I feel like some exceptions can be made for someone who is so hateful towards a group of people, and was his only intention, like his literal manifesto, is to kill people.
Yeah, like, it's like, how are you going to fix, like, John Wayne Gacy? You're
No,
not
exactly.
Gonna fix John Wayne
No,
Gacy.
it's like, and I kind of like.
You're not going to fix Timothy McVeigh. You're
Yeah,
not gonna fix...
I understand that their sentencing is different in Norway, especially since they don't have as much like crazy crime, and like I think I appreciate that maybe for smaller crimes.
Well, and also they focus on
but, like,
rehabilitation. So the idea is they do want prisoners to get out eventually.
I totally appreciate that. I think they need to make exceptions for people like
Because some people
this.
shouldn't ever walk on Earth again.
No, like that's
Like, and I don't believe in the death penalty, don't get me
No.
wrong, but it's like, I do think, like,
Something my dad...
you should get locked up.
Yeah, something my dad used to say is like, there's a point where people don't deserve to be out in public anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
Not even that, like, I mean, yeah, they shouldn't be trusted to be out in public, but they've like literally earned
lost
they
your
lost the
privilege.
right. They lost the privilege to like be part of
You're
like,
not a human
society.
being anymore, sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway,
When you kill that many people over, like, it's a hate crime, so.
So he just goes about the rubber pen, by the way. He goes, if it were theoretically possible to develop rheumatism, I'm convinced that this rubber pen would be capable of causing it. It is a nightmare of an instrument, and I am frustrated by its use. Oh, poor, poor murderer.
Just be like, hey, can I have a new pen? That's all.
Because Breivik sees himself as an author and wants to devote himself to this work in the coming decades, the writing tools of the utmost importance. He said, the fact that I must, therefore, envision a future with nothing more than a dysfunctional rubber pen appears, therefore, as an almost indescribable manifestation of sadism. More sadistic, I should think, than murdering 77 people. He didn't say that last part, but that's
that was implied. I'm sure that he's gonna throw a fit whenever Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out because he's gonna really want it.
Like, I want to know about the mobbing.
I know.
Anyway, so knowing what he did that summer almost 4 years ago, when this essay was written, it was 4 years ago, and I just copied and pasted it. It was about 7 years ago. When he walked around an island full of youths and shot everyone he saw, many face to face. Indeed, actually, when the court reviewed the autopsy reports,
He's a third of the way through his sentence.
I hate that.
yeah, he's a third of the way through.
That's
his sentence.
gross. And that was only 7 years ago.
So through autopsy reports, we learned of a girl whose lips remained unscathed, that she was shot in the mouth because Breivik shot her at close range while she was presumably screaming for help or mercy. So her lips are fine. He shot her in the mouth while she's screaming.
I hate that.
So, and knowing the consequences that his actions have had for affected families, for us, his list of complaints is, and its triviality, almost unbearable to read, as this one writer says. So Hannah Arendt's notion of banality of evil gets mentioned frequently in Breivik's case, which I've explained to you, but basically it's this idea that ordinary people can do a lot of evil. It came up in the Nazis' Nuremberg trials, and it's the idea that, like, ordinary people just doing their everyday jobs are the reason why the Holocaust happened. Because if people had just protested and, like, not done their jobs and not done these little everyday evils of, like, taking a train to a station, like, and whatever, then the Holocaust wouldn't have happened.
Or doing things like, one of your examples was using fat made
so,
from Holocaust victims.
Yes, so a lot of times they would take the corpses of Holocaust victims and turn their fat into soap. And, like, for instance, there were stores that distributed this soap and knew where it likely came from. And that is banal evil, where it's like, you're just doing your job, but you are selling a human body.
I think on a smaller scale, it reminds me a little bit of, like, animal cruelty in makeup, because it's like you can ignore animals literally being tortured against their will for your own aesthetic, and I don't like that.
Yeah,
so it's like
gross.
it's different than, you know, Nazi Germany, but like it's the same kind of.
It's easy to ignore things is the idea.
Yeah.
That it's like when you don't have to come face to face with the body that is burned for your soap, then it's easy to do this evil because it's just your day. Like, you're just cleaning yourself.
Right.
Or selling something.
Self-care.
Self-care. So in Hannah Arendt is writing, when she talks about the banality of evil, she's specifically addressing Adolf Eichmann. It's during Eichmann's trial in Jerusalem. So he belonged to an organization and a bureaucracy and a structure which he obediently served. And basically what I said, but in contrast, from the very first moment, Breivik was utterly alone, and his smallness and wretchedness, according to this writer, were, in a way, grotesquely inflated by his actions, make it all the more difficult to reconcile oneself to the crime, which the media have termed the worst attack on Norwegian soil since the Second World War. So the fact that he doesn't have any kind of industry, any kind of organization to fall back on, that he came up with this evil, not, like, it's not banal.
Yeah.
Like, and Hannah Arendt's argument is all evil is banal. That it's always people just doing their job.
Yeah.
Like, Hitler, she uses this, is just a guy who's trying to be the best politician he can. And being a populist ideologue is a good way to be a politician if you want just general support.
Yeah.
And it was pretty effective for him. Not good, but effective.
Yeah.
And I think most people can agree Hitler was obviously effective.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about Breivik is that he's all by himself and
Yeah.
there's no industry with him. There's no organization.
It's just him and his manifesto.
Yeah, it's just him.
Yeah.
So while corpses were lying around the islands in pools of blood and many of the wounded had yet to be transported to shore, Breivik was interrogated in the camp's wooden headquarters. For the police, the situation was unclear and they didn't know if he had acted alone or if there were more terrorists. And Breivik was concerned that he might die of dehydration since he had taken a combination of ephedrine, caffeine, and aspirin earlier that day.
I wish he would have.
He was given a soda before questioning began, even though he murdered people. And moments later, his concern shifted to a cut on his finger. Siersted writes that he said, "Look, I'm hurt. This will have to be bandaged up. I've already lost a lot of blood
Oh, poor you.
in my finger."
Poor you.
So then the policeman goes, "You'll get no fucking plasters from me."
I love that policeman is the real hero here.
And then Breivik goes, "I can't afford to lose too much blood, sir. I've lost half a liter already." It was a cut on his finger. He claimed the blood was going to make him pass out. So then they got
honey,
him
poor
sticking
baby.
plasters to shut him up. They were like, "Fine, okay." So while the
Poor honey.
plasters were being applied, Breivik wondered why he was bleeding. You remember hitting his finger when he shot a victim in the head at close range? Something had fallen in his finger and then popped out again. It must have been a bit of skull, he told the officers in the room. The cut was logged as 5 millimeters long, and it wasn't a skull, and then the interrogation continued. Breivik's concern for the tiny cut on his finger marks the remarkable insensitivity to which this testifies. He had just murdered 77 people. And we could place that on the fact that he was high on stimulants, intoxicated by the murders, was placed in some unrealistic state. But the fact of the matter is that he is a cold, callous murderer who has deeply narcissistic tendencies.
Literally
based
cares about
on
himself.
Yeah, and based on what he wants in prison, there's no evidence that any of that has changed.
Yeah.
And that is Anders Breivik.
Oh my god, that was shook. That was shook, I said. Whenever you were like, I have a terrorist one from Norway, I was like, oh, what can Norway, what do they
It's bad.
have? Like, that's bad.
No, it's bad. And I remember listening to it on My Favorite Murder so long ago. And it has stuck with me for a really long time. Because it's just some of the accounts that they talk about. It's on I Survived a couple times.
Oh,
And
I bet that's
these
chilling.
kids talk about having to pretend that they were dead and that they had to perfectly still because they saw him shoot their friends that who were also playing dead.
Oh no.
And so they were like, if I move at all,
Yeah.
he's gonna shoot me again. And they're lying in pools of their friends' blood.
That's-
and
underneath their dead friends, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Hiding. That's what you do.
and it's whatever to survive.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it's awful. And-
Wow.
Yeah, that's
We went from a nice little exorcist story,
Yeah, that's right.
to this.
We filmed both of those in the same night.
We filmed this one, the exorcist one that we did in the same night. That's big yike. Big
Yeah.
yike. Okay, well, I guess that's what we have for you.
Yeah, that's what
today.
we got. Make sure to like this video if you liked it. I know this was a huge downer, but it's interesting, and I thought at least it was pretty informative.
No, it was
hopefully.
really interesting.
So make sure you subscribe if you dug it. Make sure you like the video. Leave a comment down below. If you feel like it, hit the bell notification icon so you get notified anytime we post a new video.
We have a lot of paranormal, true crime, I guess terrorist, culty things.
First time a terrorist.
I know.
Hopefully blessed.
The occasional travel thing when
Yeah.
we're so lucky as to travel, but
We're so poor. But
Yeah, we are.
yeah, and then our social medias are down below to keep up with us. We're the Kardashians.
yeah, yes.
up.
That's all. Bye.